to the Mixorcist. Hey everybody, welcome to the Mixorcist. How you doing, CW?
Back to the Mixorcist, guys. How's it going, EB?
Good, man.
How's it going, man?
Good.
Let's hit the horror. I've been watching, I caved and got a subscription to Shudder. Because every time I would go to see a movie I wanted on Amazon, it'd be like, well, you don't have this, so you should sign up for that. So I did, and I stumbled across Eli Roth's History of Horror, which is divided into like genres of movies, slasher movies, vampire movies, etc., etc. And it's great. It's a great, first of all, you know, everyone is in it, like Dee Wallace is in it, and the guy, Joe Dante, who directed Gremlins, and tons of people are in it. And Rob Zombie's in it. Greg Nicotero's in it. It's just great. It's a good overview. I think episode 1 is all about zombies, so it just gets right to all the good Class A 5-star kills, rapid fire. It gets right into Tom Savini and the Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead from the 80s. I think what Tom calls his magnum opus in terms of gore pre-CGI days. And then it just goes from there, and they walk you through all the different genres of films. So there's 7 episodes. Great way to spend your time, just to get reconnected with movies I'd forgotten about. Like, do you remember Slumber Party Massacre with the driller killer? She made me laugh. She made me cry. Don't you see? She had to die. Do you remember that guy? Anyway, he's in
Vaguely. That sounds awesome.
Well, we used to do that in university all the time. We used to say that all the time. No wonder we were undateable at the time. Probably still are. But anyway.
Yeah, it took a while.
How about you? What have you been watching?
What have I been watching? I've been watching a lot of psychological thriller type movies. So not specifically horror, but I came across one on Netflix that I will try to instantiate now. It's called Inheritance. Psychological thriller. Don't want to give too much away. Woman, very rich family. The patriarch dies, and they divvy up the will and all that, and she gets a very special inheritance that no one saw coming. And I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Leave it at that.
Yeah,
Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg, of course, from Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and Lily Collins, daughter of the legendary drummer Phil Collins.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the Collins connection. Yes. You know what?
She is great. She's a very versatile actress, too.
On that subject, it was just announced this month that Genesis is reforming the Invisible Touch lineup with Tony Banks and Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it'd be good. Chester Thompson won't be playing drums. I saw them back in 2010 when they did their rounds here in Toronto, but Chester won't be playing drums. I think Phil's son will be.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it'll be Daryl on guitar, and Tony Banks always, I mean, to me, legendary keyboard. If you love prog rock, you know Tony. And so last time they did a lot of Peter Gabriel era stuff. Let's see what they do this time. Be kind of fun to see. Like, they didn't play Abacab, which to me was the song that introduced me to Genesis. It's a little late, but it would have been cool to hear them play some stuff from that record, and they really didn't. So it'd be cool to see. This may be their last go around. So if you can check it out, check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's always worth checking out the living legends. Of course, the Invisible Touch Genesis, very different Genesis from the earlier one.
Yep.
Steve Hackett, when I used to have that podcast called Audio Junkies, and we lucked out and we got to interview Steve Hackett in one of the conference meeting rooms of a hotel out in Oakville, Ontario. But he was really generous with his time. Took about an hour with us. Had a really extensive interview of how they started in the band, and then when he bought his first high watt amp and all this. It was really cool. And we're just sitting there the whole time, just going, "That's Steve Hackett. That is." Musical royalty, right? It doesn't happen that often. We had a lot of good guests on that show, but I'd say that's definitely one of the standouts where you're just kind of pinching yourself and going like, this is really cool.
You've made it. Big time. All right. Speaking of big time, what kind of plugins are we looking at this week, EB?
We are looking at the new version of Diamond Lift 3, which is it can be used for mixing and/or mastering. It does what the label says it lifts, makes things louder, deeper, brighter, more punchy. Beautiful plugin. I've used it on a lot of occasions. This new version comes with, there's this new update comes with two different versions. There's the mixing version, and then there's also the lift master version. It's kind of got the works of anything you need to shape the final tonality and the whatchamacallit, the final level. Sorry, I'm kind of at a loss for words today. Anyway, do you want to go, or
you know what? I'll do a quick rip through the controls. What kind of mix have you got today? I got something a little more on the metally side. What have you got going on?
Oh, mine's more electronic and kind of dancey and stuff.
Okay, cool.
So this will work out good.
All right. So yeah, let's hear what she does. I'm going to run it bypass. Here's a little metal mix that's my theme song for my podcast. About a 4-year-old demo / mix. It's not my favorite, but let's listen. No mastering treatment here. It's just you listen to a stereo 2-bus. Okay, so I mean some nice features there. Some guitars spread halfway through the pan, and the snare's nice and punchy, and there's a little bit of mid top that I like in it. Let's just see if we can kick this in. I think, wait a second. I can't remember if without is the light off is bypassed or not. Let's try it. Yeah, so there's without. Here's with. All right, so let me walk you through the controls really bit. So I made a couple of choices there to make the mix a little rounder in the bottom, a little brighter in the top. Chose a couple of compression and some clipper stuff, which I'll show you. So I have, let's walk through it. The first thing you'll see is the standard input-output controls, which are not going to affect your gain very much, but it will drive the internal levels of the compressor in conjunction with the threshold, likewise with the clipper. So first things first, if you're playing with this and you find that you're getting the clipper, you've got it turned on, you're getting a lot of overs, but the clipper is never or not as engaged as you want it to be, turn your output down. And if you need to then adjust the input to match it, you'll find that helps drive the clipper properly without clipping the output from the plugin and making it over zero. So that's the first thing you need to be aware of. Then you have a non-variable high pass filter, low pass filter. They, you'll hear it, but they're not super aggressive. Then there's a saturator, which you can just, lamp on, lamp off with this little switch here, and then choose your mix of 0 to 100%. We have got a fixed equalizer with 3 different band selections. I'm sorry, this is a low shelf and this is a high shelf. You can choose, you can see the curves. This one is obviously going to introduce the high end much earlier. It in fact starts at around 1K. The next one starts at around 2K. The one after that starts similarly around 2K, but it really doesn't increase as quickly. And you'll see that it never flattens out. So as it gets towards the top of the audio range, it continues to boost. So we're expecting to hear more air there than you will actual mid-range lift. And then there's a low pass filter with 3 slopes, same thing. There's a stereo width control, which I found for this song created a little bit of phase if you went nuts with it, but it definitely moved the guitars out to the side. Then there's a nice little compressor with 4 modes. And before I demo them for you, you can shut them all off. And then from 1 to 4, it seems to go with a little bit more aggressive. Like this is number 1 is very fast attack and release. So it'll pump. If you pull the threshold down enough, it'll pump. 2 and 3 are really nice for a mix. 4 is low ratio, like 2 to 1 ratio, but the attack is a little bit less clampy. The release is also very quick. So it's good for catching peaks and leveling without pumping because the ratio is reasonably low. So I found that was the most punchy. So for this mix, it was definitely number 4. Then you got to make up control. The routing control at the bottom will reflex or rewire whether EQ goes first, comp goes first, saturator goes first, clipper goes first. And so there's a couple of different configs there. With that, just listen and see which one you like. Then there's a clipper. The clipper, I'm not a big fan of clippers, but it's nice. And it does have a little mid-range on-off control, which seems to behave a little bit like a low-pass filter on a compressor. It basically leaves the bottom end alone and really focuses on toning or limiting the mids. And then there's your output control. Notice that if you don't engage the clipper modes don't show up. And again, there's 1 to 4 modes, kind of like the compressor, with 4 being what they call the insane mode. So let's just have a listen to the different parts piece by piece. I'm going to see if I can go back to a default. Maybe not. So what I'll do is we'll just turn off everything real quick, and I'm going to walk you through some of the goodies.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
all right. So let's go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that with that mid switch, what it does is it only clips the mid range. So you're absolutely right. It leaves the bottom alone and then also the top alone, which I find kind of useful. And then of course you can blend the amount of clipping in as well too. So things don't get totally out of control.
I'll walk you through so you can have a listen for each of the, we'll leave the high pass and low pass filters off for now. Let's just check some of these shelves first. All right, so let's go with the most obvious slope on the high end. Have a listen. Immediately you should hear it bring up the top end, like well in the audible range, probably, 8 to 10K. I didn't check the actual curve where it really shines. Let's try some of the other slopes though. Without. Not obvious, but still there. And the very highest one. Without. With. More like an air control where you're starting to hear maybe post 10K really starting to shine. I like this one, but much more subdued in terms of dB of gain. Let's check out the bottom end, shall we? So this is the one where you expect to hear mostly subs, and I'm going to crank it for you so you can hear it. Let's have a listen. With. Without. Put it back in. Let's put the high pass filter on. So you're going to find that the high pass filter is not terribly aggressive. It's a very, very gentle roll off. Let's see what happens as we move into the different curves for the low shelf. Notice the bottom rounding up more. And even more. So again, in order to make a little bit more of that smile curve, I'll dial that in using the roundest setting with the highest bass frequencies, but I'll pull back on the decibels again. I think you hurt my head real bad. Let's check out the spread control, or what's called the side control. Check it out. Immediately the sides or the spread, the pan comes to life a little bit, but you'll notice that it may affect the frequencies a little. It may be a little more phasey than you might like. So I kind of liked it at around 2 o'clock. I thought that was cool. Let's listen. About there's working for me. Let's check out these different compressors. So you can hear that compressor mode 1. Let's see if we can get it to pump. Not quite. Let's just go through the modes real quick. So you hear that one is really kind of thwacky, and I am noticing if you hear the snare reverb, it's a little bit elongated or extended because of the compression there. Compression mode number 3 is also really nice. Let's listen with and without. So this is without and with. That's a pretty nice, gentle, not a ton of gain reduction, but let's slap on number 4, which is either insane mode or extreme mode. You're going to have to play with the threshold for that one because it digs a lot deeper. I found this is a lot more punchy. Gain changes aside, have a listen. Try to switch it out. Without. With. So I was pretty happy with that. Let's throw on the saturation control. I believe that's gain compensated, so you can't really get that effect of it making the signal louder. I'm not hearing it do a ton that I'm super amped about, but it is, it's meant to add a gentle warmness to it. I'm not a one knob guy when it comes to saturation. I could touch more control than that, but let's move on quickly to the clipper. I know, Eric, you'll probably play with the saturation as well. Let's check out what the clipper does. Watch this. Now you will notice that once the clipper light starts to activate, listen to what's happening in the bottom end. It's getting a little bit crunchy. I'm pushing the clipper too hard, but what I want you to listen to is the difference, and you won't hear it unless I push the extreme a bit. I want you to listen to the difference with and without the mid control. Listen to the bottom end without the mid control engaged just for a minute. Bear with me. It's fuzzing up in the low, high bass, low mid. Now watch this. You notice the bass drum stays a little more intact once that's engaged, and then I would just dial this back to a sane level. Without. So this is meant to imitate like analog style limiting, where you're going to be able to have the signal go a little bit over without getting distortion, but without using an actual limiter that starts changing the dynamics in an undesirable way. This kind of softens the peak a little bit. So it's got a very nice effect to it. So let me just go back to the preset that I built, and let's listen one more time without and then with, and see if you like the changes. Here's without. Here's with. One more time without. That clipper's doing too much. And with. So there's a few things happening at the same time there. The saturator is on, giving it a bit of warmth or bloom. The high pass filter is keeping the bottom end sane, and it allowed me to do a little bit of almost like equalization, nothing too specific or targeted, but I could enhance the low end and enhance the top end with a couple of curves, a nice punchy compression circuit, and the clipper there if you wanted as well. So with all of those controls rolled together, and don't forget about the side control, which allows you to span out a little bit and get a little more stereo width. This is a Luca Predalese plugin from Studio DMI, I forgot to mention. So it's a fantastic finisher. Like, I have a hard time with those, L1 style maximizers because of what they can do to the sonics. But this was a little more configurable, a lot more transparent, and it can get dirty and mean if you wanted to.
Oh, that's fantastic. And the clipping is definitely a technique that I've been getting more and more into lately. This kind of gives you a bit more of a forward sound sometimes than those brick wall limiters. Obviously can't overdo it to the point where you hear it too aggressively, but in conjunction with a limiter, like using the two, right? Do a bit of clipping and then a limiter to finish the job at the end. And the limiter doesn't have to work so hard. So this is just a great a great addition. I mean, I've been using Lift 2 for quite a while, and this is just bigger, better, it's got more stuff on it. I think Argue sounds even a little clearer to me. Really loving it. I mean, you've done such an extensive overview of it.
Yeah, right? But I wanted to hear it on your. I want to show everybody the different controls, how they interact, because you do have to play with it in a certain order. But I also want to hear it on an electronic mix because I think it'll probably prefer that.
All right. Well, is my guess. Hear it. I'll get rid of the long-winded preamble. And there was an introduction. Let's just hear what's going on here. I'm using the mastering version. And you know what? I'm just going to get the mastering version up there, and I'm just going to start messing around with the controls. Input and output behave normally on this, so this is not your typical Acustica gain match thing. This is actually going to give you more input. So let's do that. Let's turn the clipper on. Let's just drive into that clipper a bit. Notice I've got the output pulled down just a little bit to help from going over 0. And let's mix in some of that clipping. A lot of fatness, a lot of forwardness. That's without any compression whatsoever or EQ. Might be able to use a bit of high end. Let's see how low I can get away with. This one's nice, but maybe a bit less of it. I'm not sure it needs any more bass, but let's take a look at the bass too and see what happens. Anyway, just for the fun of it.
See what we can get away with.
Yeah. To get a bit farty, a bit ratty, but that's because it's going into the clipper there, right? But I mean,
hit the high pass filter, see if it does anything to clean it up.
Now these high passes, the high pass is at 30 hertz, 30 cycles, and the low pass I believe is at 18 kilohertz. Yeah, that did seem to help clean it up a bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's dial that back down. Let's hit the compressor just a little bit. See when you tighten it up just a tad. Maybe. Let's try mode 4 like you had there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's nice. And let's increase the sides a bit because there are some really cool stereo effects going on in here. Let's go back. And this is what we started with, off. On. Maybe let's try that mid switch. So yeah, I'm hearing a little bit of rattiness on the top end, so maybe this will help. Oh yeah. I noticed a pretty big difference there with that mid switch, and all of a sudden that bass came into focus, and the top end cleared right up. So pretty important.
Same as mine.
Yeah, really important. But anyway, I guess
Matt,
that's me.
Do me a favor. I didn't touch I didn't touch the routing controls 1 through 4. Give those a shot just so everyone can hear the differences. And all this is doing is just putting the EQ before the comp or the comp before the EQ. But if you just listen with your ears and forget about what it's doing, it definitely, there's different shines, different flavors.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's, I don't know why that's not there we go. Now, also, it's probably worth mentioning then at this point with the routings here that the first 2 have the clipper at the very end, whereas number 3 and 4, the clipper is somewhere earlier on in the change. So if you're using the clipper kind of as your final level control, you may want to just stick with number 1 or 2 as the routing. Like if you've got the clipper at 100%, you're using that to try and stay around below 0 or whatever, then that might change on you if you change the routing. But let's just play it through, and I'll just go through them, and we'll hear what happens. That's number 1. Switching to number 2. Number 3. Yeah, see, we're getting some overlights here. So it will change your internal gain structures, so.
Yeah.
Whereas this one seems to not be going over. This one actually sounds quite nice. Let's go back to number 1. They're all good. they're all
I think
good.
2 is the punchier one, so maybe in number 2 the compressor, I don't know if it would have been first, hard to say, but it was a nice punchier one, but it did let a little more transients through.
You talking to me? You talking to me? I'm the only one here.
The other thing I didn't get to, if you want to show them, was the different clipper modes. I showed them number 4, which was the insane one. Try some of the other ones. See what happens if you dime it, push right into it.
Sure, let's do that. Okay, so I think this is on mode 2 actually right now. Oh no, that's the compressor mode. This is on mode 1. So let's give it some more clipping and even some more even input here. I did some testing too, and the clipper does give you odd order harmonics. So like 3rd harmonic, 5th, and so forth. All right. That's pretty heavy. All right, let's hear number 2. Oh, I like. 3. That's a little rattier. I like it.
It is, yeah, a little spittier.
Yeah, what was that?
It was a little spittier. That was the one that I used, and I felt like it was too much for my mix, which is a little more mid-forward. It was not only mangling the guitars a bit, but it was touching the snare in ways I didn't want it to, and a little bit of the lower end of the drum kit and stuff. So I think probably would have been better served with 1 or 2. 2 had a nice round bottom to it. It felt like it really expanded the lows.
Yeah.
I could be hearing things, but that's what I noticed anyway.
I heard that too. 2 just opened it right up, and it just sounded, like the signal had more integrity, and it extended further into the lows and the highs. So 2 is a nice, whatever 2 is.
Yeah.
I only did the analyzer on mode 1, by the way. So when I said it has odd harmonics, I only checked mode 1, so I'm not sure about the other modes,
right?
And what they're doing on a technical level. But hey, I think that we're pretty good with this one. I look forward
to too. Just a final note, this is apparently representing the studio DMI sound, whatever that means, but I'm guessing it's a unique blend of hardware and a specific chain. And I know there's some better makers in there and some other gear that Luca likes to use, who they have in the studio. So this is definitely a signature sound. It is, I think it's really well designed. There are a lot of little things for you to play with. And remember, this is not meant to be a track equalizer, but you could easily throw this on something that needs more character, like either a sub mix or I mean, the manual mentions synth and vocals. I can see that having vocals, a nice presence to it. I tried it on vocal. It didn't exactly take me where I wanted to go, but it definitely would be fantastic as a mix bus tool or as a final mastering limiter, and allowing you to make some of those subtle changes, right? Not too crazy, but each control affects the next one. What you do with that bass control, for example, that low shelf, really drives the clipper in a different way, drives the compressor in a different way, and that's going to affect the total sound. So you have a lot of variability in there. I've only started to play with it, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good one. It's hard when you can't true bypass and have it immediately reflect what you're hearing now, that little 1 second or sub-second dip. Makes it hard to compare A-B sometimes, but that's really the only flaw that I could find with it. I can certainly see using this on music as a finalizer for sure. What about you, EB?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been using Left 2 for some time, and this is just more than welcome addition. I like the additional modes. I feel like there's more clarity to it, and there's just a little more flexibility. Now, with regards to switching it on, when you bypass it on and off, it's loading up all of these. It's not normal technology. Yeah. It has to load up essentially all these samples. So that's where that delay comes in. I think they've gotten it down as far as they can. If you do need to hear seamless bypassing, let me get my screen up here. If you have, say, Reaper, every plugin that you instantiate has a wet-dry knob right there. So if you really need to hear that instantaneously, what I do is just go like that, back and forth. And this this knob might even do it. And that will be hopefully time-aligned and with no gaps in it.
Right.
But,
I wasn't using the zero latency version either, just to keep CPU low. So that would probably speed it up as well, I would think.
Yeah.
And then a final note, there was one other thing I was going to mention. Eric, what was it? There was one last thing that I wanted to say about this plug. Damn it. Okay, you know what? I may have to miss it, and we'll put it in the show notes or something.
Oh, I don't know. But
well, I didn't know. You wouldn't know unless you can read minds.
No. Yes. I saw this other cool, I'll get to it later. I saw this cool thing, kind of hypnotist movie card tricks and stuff. It's really cool. We'll talk about that next time. But meantime, I do want to check out Eli Roth's History of Horror. I've watched the first episode, the zombie one, and I just sort of stopped there, right? Because
you'll love it.
Yeah.
Gotta watch the slasher one's good, man. Jamie Lee Curtis is there talking about Halloween. You're gonna love it. It's a great survey course in horror if you're kind of new and need to know where to dip your toes in. Like, I've never seen Changeling, and I think I want to watch it now because just the overview of it sounds cool. I think that'd be a great one to watch. George C. Scott.
Man. Oh, I've seen that multiple times. It's worth it, man. Just watch it. The Changeling. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That used to scare me when I was a kid, man. It was a scary movie.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. The Omen. That's another one. Yeah. Jeez, you kidding? Who lets a kid watch
scary.
That? All right, dude. Good to see you. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, don't forget to send us your comments, your mixes, that kind of thing. We love hearing from you. Until then, take care, my friends. We'll see you next time on the Mixorcist.